IVM.
Hello there, Aishi.
Hi, Tash.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little bit tired. It is a Tuesday night.
And it's late. It's 10 something.
Yeah, it's 10:17.
17, yeah.
Well, look at us. Late Latifs. One would have thought that now nearly a year and something in to doing this, we would not leave our episode recording till like the last possible date.
But in this pandemic situation, it's kind of become that, right? We find
when we used to meet in the studio, I think we had
better schedule.
We definitely had a better schedule, and usually we'd do like 2 episodes, and it would give us a break as well for a week. But during the lockdown, we've just been like,
rogue.
Shit.
Yeah, gone rogue. But anyway, on that note, you've said we've been into this for a year. I would like to just say welcome to our lovely listeners. Welcome, one and all.
And this is episode
49.
What? Oh man, 49.
That's one away from 50.
But in terms of how long we've been doing this, it's been longer than a year.
Yes, but you have been listening to us for 50 weeks almost.
You've had 50 weeks of content from us.
Yeah, of a lot of chit-chat, 45 minutes to an hour. Humne bahut baatcheet ki. Shit, man, these guys have listened to many words from our mouths.
And while they've been listening to it from us, I feel like we've also been listening to each other and ourselves a lot more across these 50 hours. Let's say that each episode is an hour at the tops, right? So we've had about 50 hours of chat.
That's true.
Across this last, I would say year and a quarter, maybe year and 2 months. And this episode, so this is episode 49. And we've decided to dedicate, just to give you guys a heads up on how things are going to go. We've decided to give episode 49. We've decided to dedicate today's episode to just Tash and I.
Yes, special me and special Ayushi. So, of course, it's pretty trippy because none of us have ever had a podcast. And now to find ourselves here a year later being like, damn girl, you and me, both of these people who have loved this
new format.
Yeah. Just look at us having found this groove and now we're here. Oh my God, it's pretty crazy. We have to celebrate this. Talk about us. Sorry. Yep, you're trapped now. We're going to be chatting plenty about feelings, each other, our love for each other.
And just in general, where you and I have come a year into this experiment. If we were to call it an experiment.
More adults than we were when we began, for sure.
Yes. And exciting news. Actually, should I just tell them at the end of the episode?
Yeah,
so as
why
to
not?
keep them intact.
Yeah, you stay here till the end of this episode. We have some exciting news for you.
And you can't scrub forward because you don't know when I'm going to say it. Okay, so here you are about how many minutes in? Like 3-4 minutes in. So let's get into this episode. We released our first episode a little over a year ago. We, however, had recorded our first episode about 2 months before our release date.
Yeah.
So we kind of had that anticipation and that nervous energy sort of built up in us since a really long time. Then the episode came out and that kind of kickstarted it for us. But from the first time that we auditioned, I auditioned sort of and when we did the test pilot episode and then our first one and subsequent so far, we've covered a lot of topics. We've done everything as we've done the fun stuff like relationships and dating and like sex and all of that.
How you hitchkitchoud? I know. Tell you have hitchkitchoud before.
Because I forgot. I also repressed, and secondly, also just I forgot what that episode was called.
Oh, also, by the way, guy, I mean, of course, it's no surprise that that has had the most number of downloads, that episode. A Course on Intercourse. That was
That's the one.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was episode 25 or something. I don't remember, but yeah.
Yeah, I think, that was crazy.
People are very keen on listening to information about that, I suppose. It's nice.
Right, we could circle back to this. But we've done those fun ones, and we've done certain heavier ones, when things like the trans bill was introduced in Parliament. We did it when the CAA, NRC, sort of the protests over that happened. We've done an episode around then. We've done it on environmental responsibility, on COVID and this whole lockdown thing, utilizing your time, innocence, anxiety. We've had like really cool guests along the way when we've, gotten for the finance episodes, when we did mental health, when we did, we've really tried to keep this podcast as relevant in terms of real time with our lives as well as the society kind of life around us. So this for me, this podcast sometimes feels like a time capsule of 2020 to 2021 because we've released episodes in tandem to things that have been happening in our lives and in the country and world. So it just feels very exciting to be able to look back and be like, hey, when we did this is what was happening. And this is how I felt. Exactly. This is how I felt because I can go back and listen to it and find that's kind of what I like as well. It's a time capsule for myself.
Absolutely right. It's so interesting you said that because every time an episode releases, it's already in the past, when we recorded it.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting for those few moments, for that hour, 40 minutes or whatever, to get an insight into what your brain was thinking and what your mouth was saying last week when you were recording. And sometimes I'm like, oh shit, I'm a totally different person today.
That happens very often when I listen to the episode. I'm like, could I have said that better? Or do I still stand by that thought because I've now kind of had more time to sit with it and thought a bit more?
Yeah.
But I guess in that way, this is a very honest podcast because, we've said it many times.
Ayushi, though you love to toot this honesty horn on our podcast. You never lie and you keep telling our listeners that.
Not just that, I also think it's because we don't do any sort of rehearsal and there is no, this isn't edited. This isn't like like with little snippets here and there. We don't take breaks in the middle to kind of meander and then come back to it. We really have done our best, I think, to keep it as authentic as possible. And I'm not just talking about, say, me using this as a platform of honesty, which that's something that I keep referring to. But I mean, even as the pod, it's been very much just what it is. It's not been pretentious in its time either. That's kind of what I mean by it. Like it's struggled just as much as everything else has struggled in.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's one of the things about even being in this age bracket or in this phase of life. It kind of mirrors every other aspect of life also.
Yeah. It got dark with us when we went dark personally for a while. Yeah. It was fun when we were feeling like, hey, you know what? I haven't a care in the world. I just want to get slizzard on air. I mean, it's been with us, and so thank you, I guess, for listening long enough to give us this time capsule.
Really?
So I don't know. We don't have any structure for this episode, which obviously drives me insane. But
maybe I can ask you a few questions, Ayushi.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I got nothing.
Okay, so you tell me, in the last year, how do you think you've evolved in this journey of adulthood? What is the difference between Ayushi the adult then, Ayushi the adult now?
I could hear that. You just... I think one thing that definitely Ayushi then versus Ayushi now is I think I'm kinder. I've tried to work on being a kinder person over the last year and a half. And that's not to say that I wasn't kind or some sort of monster just stomping around Tokyo. Like it wasn't like that. But in terms of practicing this sort of lesson that we keep talking about, empathy and working on it a lot more actively than I would have before. I've tried to keep up with I've tried to keep up with what's happening in the world, and in that itself, it makes you more empathetic as a person, because the more you realize how much, say, darkness or tragedy or travesty there is, the only way that we can move forward, of course, is through organized and education for yourself, but also empathy. That's like the biggest way to connect with each other and a community around you. So that's something that I feel like I've actively worked on, to see things from other people's perspectives. And just security. I think I'm a little more secure in myself than I was
That's
a year ago.
Big one also. That's a really big one, I feel, because of the nature of life and of age.
Yeah.
Like how insecurity plays such a big part for a majority of one's life, say from 13 to early mid-20s. And I think now is when we finally found the shift towards feeling a sense of security within ourselves.
Yeah. And it's something that we've talked a lot about on the show also, like my feeling of like rejection that happens, and that where a lot of my personal trauma comes from, is that's something that I think I've gotten better at. First of all, recognizing where I'm falling into that trap again. Yeah, and knowing that it's like, oh, no, this is why you're feeling bad. Yeah. So it's not real. It's just you getting the better of yourself.
Yeah.
But also just security in terms of like, I do feel a little more comfortable in the decisions that I'm making now as I was, say, last August, right? Or last even June or July, like back when we were starting this whole crazy idea and when we thought about it, I think security and it's not fully there yet. There's a long way to go, but in terms of improvement, yeah, these are the main two, I think, that stand out personality wise.
And any like dark shit you've encountered, dealt with, or coped with this year?
I think there was a little bit of time in the middle where I started to feel a bit lonely. And I think we talked about it in one of the episodes. I genuinely can't remember which one it was, but we definitely touched upon it. And it was actually, once again, through this therapy podcast session that I have with myself, talking about the loneliness makes you realize that, first of all, you're not alone in feeling this way. Because so many times when we've talked about our personal flaws and personal insecurities on the show, people have always DM'd after and been like, I heard you talk about it, and I just want to say that I feel this too. Yeah. And it just made me feel so good to know that other people feel it. And that sense of community that we sort of built through the show, and people reaching out and letting you know that you're not alone in that kind of more like a cosmic sense. And it just feels nice, because sometimes you feel like you see people moving forward with certain parts of their life when it comes to like personal relationships and things, and you're kind of like, I don't really know why things aren't like working for me right now. But now I don't see it that way. I see it more like, as long as I'm working on myself and making sure that this person is getting the best version of XYZ or being the best version of XYZ, then that's all that matters. The rest of all that fun, good stuff will fall into place if and when it has to, like, I think that's something that has changed. I think I don't want to call that a dark thing, because like we've said, right, like lessons and progress over perfection and all of that stuff. But that, I think, was a time in the year, maybe late last year, where I was feeling a little like a bit lonely. This helped me though. This show helped me. I helped myself. That's amazing. What I'm saying.
And listeners, you helped too. So thank you.
Yes. A lot of people DM'd, and you guys know how much I enjoy the DMs. It feels nice to know that people find some sort of commonality and community from the show.
On this note, I would just like to tell all our listeners and you that today when I was doing my workout in the morning, it's a series of workouts. So guys, I will just tell everybody, I have started this Chloe Ting 2-week shred as of 8 days ago. Today is day 8. Okay.
Nice.
So if you are not familiar with it, let me tell you. A series of workouts you have to do. They're all like 12 to 13 to 10 or whatever minutes long. You have to do like 3-4 workouts a day. depends on what the day's schedule is. So I finished my 3 workouts, then I've reached the fourth one. And sometimes before starting the workout or just when I've finished it and I'm resting on my mat, I check the comments, because why not? No, on YouTube. I love to read YouTube comments also. So I checked them out today, and literally every person, the last video, thank God, by the way, was only 3 minutes long. So the last workout was 3 minutes and it was the fourth workout. So I was dying by then, but I was like, let's finish it off. So I opened it was only 3 minutes. I rejoiced and I finished it, and then I read the comments. And people were like, oh, I'm resting now. I'm so happy. It was only 3 minutes. I said, if it's going to be longer than 3 minutes, I'm not going to do it. So many people commented saying, I screamed when I saw it was only 3 minutes long. And I was like, yes, everybody in this comment section gets me. I'm in the same exact boat as all of these people who have done this workout. And for this amount of time, we have all felt the exact same feeling. And that blew my mind.
It's why you and I laugh at very specific memes, because when we feel that they speak, when we send them to each other, we're just like, it's me. It feels so good to read them and
like that meme you shared today about the email. I'm sorry, I lost control of the day.
It's like, Rachel, that happens to me as well.
I lose control of the day all the time.
But yeah, it's just that sense of relatability and thinking that, hey, someone else is also struggling. So
yeah.
I don't know whether that's a good or bad thing that we keep comparing ourselves to, like when you're kids, some people always tell you don't compare yourself to someone who's worse off than you. You should compare yourself who's doing better, so that it pushes you to, work harder. But I think the defining emotion of our generation is more to just look at each other and be like, are you miserable? Yes, even I am. Okay, great. We'll just be miserable together.
Correct. Yeah. But also I found that problematic, that you need to look up to people who are doing better or not to people who are doing worse. We can't ever judge who is doing better and worse. I mean, this is also another part of adulthood. It's also unique and specific. The entire situation surrounding a person's journey through these years.
Yeah, but I mean, Dash, I don't have the energy right now to lie and say that, oh, that's how I think all the time. That's not true.
Yeah.
I don't. I have peers in this, if I was just to take my job as a microcosm of this example, there are people who are my age that are doing maybe more with their opportunities, or they're doing better, or they've done things faster than I have. And of course I compare myself to them. I'm just dude, that guy's only 1 year older than me, and he's already able to do so much more than I am. And I wish I could do more. And even comparing yourself within your organization with yourself, against, say, people that you know. I mean, you can say that everyone's journey is unique and this, that, the other, and you can't compare, but you can compare. We do compare. We do it all the time. I don't know why we're gonna lie about. It's not lying. I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm just saying that I've not hit that level of adulthood or zen where I'm not looking at others to mark my success. I mean, we can work towards not doing it as much and not internalize it. It doesn't have to become a definition of your own value and worth, for sure.
Yeah.
But I don't think we can ever separate, and not compare yourself to someone who's doing better than you at whatever it is.
I think a large part of empathy, though, is understanding that everybody climbs their mountain at their own pace. That's all.
Yeah, of course.
Is there a glitch, or are you just quiet?
I'm quiet because you've not twisted it, but I think you've used empathy in a different way than maybe I've been referring to it, which is interesting, and that's a very different way of looking at it. But this thing of not comparing yourself to other people and trying, I know we've spoken about it a lot, and we say that you are your own person and this, that, the other, but I don't think it's I do not think that it's easy to stop yourself from doing it. I don't think we live in a world where we can escape it as easily as we would like to. And I don't think certain industries and certain jobs and certain personality types even let you escape that comparison problem.
Yeah.
Like, just a question then. Like, you are an actor, you're in a very public field, and your achievements and other people's achievements in their body of work is very publicly out there in terms of even just sheer amount, right? Like, you're telling me that you don't look at other people's, say, portfolios or profiles and be like, damn, I wish I got that gig, or like, look at how well he's doing. I wish, like, I need to do that. So that isn't that what it is at the end of the day? It's just comparing yourself to other people.
Yeah, but also a large part of this journey, or this wanting to be a better version of myself, is catching myself when I think of these things, or when I behave this way, and being like, you feel this way, okay, why? Let's examine this and understand that we don't need to feel this way.
Yeah, okay.
That's all, yeah. But you're right, it happens. Oh my God, of course it happens all the time. It's not like I am in any place of Zen where I don't feel this. I do. I oftentimes, like envy and jealousy, these are very real human emotions also. And yeah, they come up. It's part of life. You, I guess, yeah.
Also, I do think another way to look at it is when you do compare yourself to other people, or this envy, jealousy thing I think another reason we also feel it is because we do have expectations of ourselves and our lives, like in terms of what we'd like to achieve with them. So I don't think it's all coming from a very negative or insecure place. I think it can come from a place of like, hey, you actually know what you want. You're seeing it out there. You're seeing that this is what the next step for me is. This is what because touch wood, the hope is that we still have a couple decades left.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So you know where your next, like what the next step is, or what that looks like, you know? So yeah, maybe you should stop yourself when you're comparing yourself kind of just like unnecessarily harshly. But if it's pushing you to do better and pushing you to be slightly more ambitious for yourself, I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Hagrid.
Okay, well then let me ask you the question.
Should we take a break? Have we been around or no?
No, I think we can talk a little bit more before the break.
Cool.
What have you learned in the last... what was the question you asked me?
Just the evolution of this adulthood in 1 year, basically.
Yeah, so what is Ritasha back then to Ritasha now? Like, what's something that's changed with her?
I think one of the biggest things that she has come to accept / realize is that there is very little under her control, under her immediate control. And it would be better for her and for her overall betterment if she were to focus solely on those things instead of flipping about things outside of her control.
Fair. That's a big adulthood takeaway in life in general. We're not going to be able to control everything, so it's good.
Yeah, and I think another big reason this has come to the forefront in such a big way is because I've been at home for the last 6 months with a lot of time to just live a simple life and also spend a lot of time with myself, and also at the same time deal with many emotions and experiences that came with this 6-month pandemic period that's been going on in the most recent past. I feel anyway, the first half of the 50 episodes, things were going along. You know, I was on my journey of whatever. Yeah, this is great. Life is good. Last year was great. I shot for my debut web series show, and then the podcast happened. And it's so interesting how this has kind of come full circle this year, when this is not to do with the answering of your question, but a subtle plug, if not, it's not even a plug.
No,
but
of
basically,
course.
Our show went live last August, right?
Yeah.
And in September, October, I shot for that show, for this web series, this Netflix show.
Yeah.
And now this 50th episode is going to release next week. And the day after that, my show will release. Like on Netflix, I'll be there for the first time in 1 year. I was dreaming of being on Netflix, or just dreaming of having some acting work other than Bado Bahu, to be very honest.
Yeah.
And I finally find myself in a very, very happy space professionally happy space, and personally having grown in the last 6 months in a big way. I feel like a lot of the adulthood lessons
Came in
kind
the
of
last very recent past.
yeah,
That's also
like
because
June, July, August.
because
Yeah.
Tash, also come on, let's cut ourselves some slack. We were in 2019 just living life, like literally living life, like there was
Yeah.
there was nothing. There was just, wedding season and work, and you had gigs, and you met up for like just it was just normal life. Things that obviously. So we're having a few internet glitches, and we're just going to sort that out. So let's take a break, and we'll be right back to Tasha's answers on how 2020 has been for her.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Been a really fun week on the network. Please do definitely check out all the regular shows that you do. But in addition, let me give you a few recommendations. On Agla Station Adulthood, Ritasha and Ayushi talk siblings. Really fun episode. I think you'll enjoy that. Nishad Pai Vaidya is on Cyrus, and they discuss cricket and a lot of different things around cricket. I think you'll enjoy that as well. Old friend Parmesh Shahani, he was on Absolutely Right. Definitely do check that out. Tamal Mills was on Edges and Sledges, another episode which I've heard really good things about. I haven't heard it yet. I need to listen to that soon. And guys, Uncle Please Sit. Definitely listen to that. They've been killing it. This week they have Abby Phillips. He's a doctor talking about medical misinformation. Last week, Paramita Vora was talking about sex education and who needs it. They've been really killing it. Definitely do check that out. And with that, let me get you back to your show.
Hello, and we are welcoming you back to Agla Station Adulthood, episode 49.
We've regained our energy.
Yes.
And Tash.
And
now
Tash.
you can tell us, we had a little bit of an internet glitch, and we're sorry. So we were talking about you in 2019 versus you in 2020.
Yeah, a year into this pod, basically, a lot went down. I also started therapy just before we started the pod. So, in effect, in these 50 episodes, I've also had like maybe 100 hours of therapy. So, that's also been a big change in the last 50 weeks.
Which means that Ayushi has had about like 37 hours of therapy.
Second-hand therapy, lol.
Like, what did she tell us this week?
Yeah, and at the same time, I think many things have happened in my life in the past year that have really left me just wanting to focus with everything that I have only on things that I actually can do. And that's actually now in the past 3 months boiled down to the absolute basics of feeding myself, bathing myself, writing my journal, exercising, doing puja, and maintaining gratitude in this life.
The first you when you started by saying like, washing myself, feeding myself, I was like, knowing which battles to pick is also like a fair adulthood, like mad props, so that's a good one. So you haven't regressed.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, and definitely I think there has been an increased sense of security. And you and me, between us, girl to girl, I would like to tell you, I've also really come into this, owning womanhood, if I can say so.
Of course you can.
Now I'm like, yeah, I can call myself a grown-ass woman, I feel. And really just getting a better sense of what it means to be a woman, A, in this world, B, with oneself, see, just like energetically also, just like it is pretty amazing to be born a woman, I feel. And I've kind of come into the power of it more recently than before. I've come to own it more than before, which I'm enjoying.
I think I'm more just like no fucks given about the fact that I'm not going to censor myself on anything just because I'm a woman anymore.
Oh yeah, that's so for sure. वो तो अपना पहले से ही है बनता है.
But I'm saying that was yours from before in terms of like what you chose to say and what you chose to like retract from. And, you know, you had a way better grasp with, like say confidence. Like you were okay to say whatever you wanted to say whenever you said it. Like you had that confidence in yourself. I am a confident person, but I always kept certain parts of my opinions not just out of the way because I was like, it's just not necessary. It's not needed to like obfuscate the issue any further or to like make this more about, a gender issue. But now with the way that things, I also feel that, and I know that I keep doing this on the show, but I also feel that 2019 and 2020 have been such politically large years as well.
For sure,
in terms of engagement across the board for people, that we've grown up as adults in that way as well. Like our social interaction with society has changed in the last year.
Forget the whole wave of the Me Too and everything that happened in late 2018 also.
So we were just coming off of that.
Exactly.
You know, and it's sad to say that we were coming off of that as if it's not continued, but it hasn't. It has, per usual movements, it little bit petered out, but it's that same stuff. We were holding all of that with us and we carried it into 2019, into 2020 with different layers of shit, on top of it, just piling up like, oh, now deal with this, now deal with this. And that has made us more, I think, like we're actively angry now as opposed to maybe we weren't so actively angry before. Or maybe just, I'll speak for myself. I'm actively angry a lot more. Which is not in contradiction to what I said earlier about empathy. Not at all. I am more empathetic, but I am more angry for myself. Like I will not be quiet about something just because it's the polite and sweet thing to do.
Yeah, and I think also because the awareness has increased. Now we are no longer just women living in our families or in our workspaces or in our immediate friend circle. We are grown women who understand what possibly another woman in our country who is not from a similar background or something might be going through or is dealing with, and just you get a deeper understanding of what it means to be a woman across the country, not just in this. So yeah, I definitely agree with you that yes, we are angrier because we have more awareness and a better understanding, and that's where the empathy comes in, of course.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it all ties in together as to why you feel a certain way. But I do think that this, if we were to, we would be remiss if we did not address the fact that 2019 and 2020 were very large engagement years in terms of policy, politics, social happening, social change, uprising, a lot of, like, you can just feel the nature of, like, interactions have changed, the nature of, family dynamics and debates have changed. The national rhetoric is somehow feeling more tense, and there's all of this stuff that goes into it, and that has played a huge part in our personal development from 2019 to 2020 as well. It would be silly if we didn't give that, a shout out in a way.
In a way, yeah, that's been a big teacher in its own way. All of these global or national level happenings, which have kind of they because these things dictate the times we live in. And these are the times in which we have come into this age. And it's a kind of breaking of that innocence also because of world events and national events. And how
so what Tash has just done is like plugged 3 episodes that we've done already. One is on Now's Your Time. One is Rage of Innocence. Nicely done.
But it's true. We have, it's actually like you have to just... our podcast is the best, is all I'm trying to say. If in 1 year,
No, say in 1 year.
No, nothing. It wasn't that important. I was like, if in 1 year, if you haven't heard all of our episodes, you have to at least now go back and listen to the ones you didn't listen to.
And I will say that surprisingly, I am very proud of the ones that we've done in lockdown, even though they've been slightly more difficult to record because sometimes we haven't been feeling it, or the technology has just been conspiring against us, or we haven't had so much time or bandwidth for it. But I've enjoyed our lockdown ones because we've had a lot of time to get into topics perhaps that we wouldn't have got into if we were just sitting in a studio. We've gotten really raw with some of them as well. It's been like, again, those silver linings have permeated the podcast, like part of our life as well. It's not just been like the pandemic wise, it's helped the show. I do think it has helped the show to have gotten this very private time with, because this is also, these episodes are the only ones that you and I've recorded by ourselves. Like, we've not had any, like the sound engineer, the producer. I mean, we miss everyone. We miss being in the studio.
A different experience of just you and me. It really does feel quite intimate.
It's because it's the chat, right? It's chit chat. It's just us chit chatting again.
Yeah.
And while it would be nice if our producer was here to guide us back when we go rambling off, which happens, this intimacy has been, I'm grateful. I'm very grateful for it. I don't know. I just had like two other things to discuss in terms of things that I've learned over the last year because of the podcast. Is there anything else that you feel like you want to add?
I also recognize things in myself, things that have, I've now really realized that I'm a hella lazy person. I don't like to prep. And I love to rely on spontaneity. But I'm at a point now where I'm like, no, Ritz, you can't forever rely on spontaneity. You need to prepare. And honestly, like what Kavita, our producer, says, and Ayushi does all the time, is they take notes. And this is something which I haven't done since college, of taking notes. At a rehearsal or whatever. Yeah, at work I take notes. But in this podcast, I've never actually treated it as work. So are you telling me that now you're going to be taking an initiative over the next 50? Is that what I'm hearing? Perhaps. Yes.
Wow. It's not. Wow, I can't even. You waited too long.
Yes, perhaps. But I'm not saying that. I'm not committing. I'm saying it's made me realize that I'm a lazy person who doesn't like to prep.
Oh, that's all you've gotten out of this.
No. I'm appearing on another panel this week and I will be prepping for that. So that is already a change.
So listen to the panel. I have put in all the work to get Tash to this place.
Yeah, you must thank Ayushi.
Okay, I mean, it's there's not much else. I think if you've listened to our show for the last year, even if you haven't listened to all of them, you understand where we're coming from. You know that we are looking to continue this in a similar fashion. We might change up the format a little bit in terms of discussing other things, or maybe, I don't know, like maybe getting more guests on. We'd like to get some more professional opinions on things, so we don't always have to pontificate just to each other.
Yeah, and we'll definitely have some kind of change of format after a bit.
50. Yeah. I think we're going to start working towards a little bit of a newer format, and we'll keep you guys updated on that. It's still going to be ASA. It's still going to be unscripted. It's still going to be the two of us chit-chatting. But
dropping truth bombs.
But we are going to try to freshen it up a bit. I will say, though, that you learned about this laziness thing. The one thing that I learned from this show was just, actually, it. Yeah. One thing that I've learned just being on the show and having to think about this show actively is how much actually we have to censor ourselves. And what is just not okay to say anymore, what's not okay to even question anymore, I sound like one of those like all white men comedians who can't handle the fact that there are opinions that you're not allowed to have. And I get that. Like, I know that that's what I sound like, but the walls are closing in. And sometimes this podcast makes me feel like it's a safe space to say things that I normally wouldn't, even though this shouldn't be the place that I say it, because it's actually a very public platform. But this has made me realize just how much you have to be careful about what you're saying, because it's so easy to offend people, even if you don't intend to, even if your questions are coming from a place of pure like knowledge and you want to understand certain things better. There's just some things that you can't say and you can't ask. And it does make me wonder if that's kind of a healthy way to go forward when it comes to conversation. But
you're so right, because this is something which I never used to do. Like before I became this slightly public figure or whatever.
Yeah.
And I still try to be as authentic and as honest as possible, but I find myself censoring my thoughts now.
Yeah.
And I find that offensive to myself.
Dude, exactly.
Because see, censoring one's speech is still understandable to a certain degree. I have been at the receiving end of a lot of bad shit on the internet also, just because of the times we live in. So maybe for one's own safety and peace of mind, okay, fine, maybe you censor what you say. But Ayushi, because of the fear of this kind of reaction or this kind of world that we live in, it's made me want to censor my thoughts. And I mean, not want to, it has made me like...
Yes.
And I would like to change that. I'm so glad you brought this up. I would like to break out of that.
Because there's so many things that sometimes I want to say with the flippancy that I normally speak with, that I look at you or I look at a producer, or like I'm looking at each other and we're like, oh, this is probably territory. Are you sure you don't want to walk into?
And we don't want to discuss getting offended. And I don't only mean people who are getting offended politically or any...
Oh, no. I mean people just offended across everything. Like the things that people are offended by now.
Yeah.
And it just... And then, like for me, again, to be very honest, every time people get offended about things, somehow the one thing that keeps coming back to me is that, well, you guys can have the time to get offended about this, but when it comes to women's equality or women's safety, like you don't seem to be offended by that enough to do anything, to like mobilize, to get mad, to activate, like, or get
not
activated.
Even just to do something good, but like you're sitting and getting offended, but what are you doing about anything?
Nothing.
At large. Are you doing anything positive for this world and universe at large? No. Then don't sit and get offended.
Yeah. And so maybe this is us also trying to say that if the show has been relatively unoffensive so far,
well, it's about to change. After 50, Ritasha is taking a vow of 100% uncensored.
And it's more like if we just want to talk about something and ask a question, I'm going to. And if somebody has a problem with that, that remains their personal problem. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm not. The whole point is
exactly. Got to stop.
But yeah, this sort of thing. These are kind of the changes that I've seen in us over the last year, and I would like to see with the show going forward, because I don't want the show to end at all. I love it. I love the community that we're trying to create here, and I would like it to be tighter and more open with each other. And you know what? If you have something to say, say it. Don't muzzle yourself.
Yeah.
Because there will always be someone who is going to be offended.
And there's always going to be someone else who's thinking the same thing also. So
yes.
Koi tension nahi
hai. Exactly. For every person that gets offended, there's somebody who's going to be like, actually, even I was thinking
I think the same. Yeah.
I was also wondering how this happened.
Same sawal. Anyway, yes.
Anyway, I think we can give them the little tidbit now.
Go for it. Do tell.
We have an exciting, super special episode for number 50 next week.
Yes. We have our first guest from across the seas, if you will.
Actually, that is true. Because she was not in India at the time of us recording this.
Absolutely. She basically lives in foreign for now.
Yeah. We should really check with her at the time of release where she's going to be.
Correct.
But, we recorded this about 2 weeks ago, in all honesty, because of just scheduling, and it just worked out better that way. But should we tell them the name or no? Do we
No. We don't tell them the name. They'll find out soon anyway.
Okay. But we have a very special guest for episode 50. It is a fantastic episode. I cannot tell you how much I loved it.
Yes. I think it's really going to elevate.
You must listen to it.
Yeah.
And in general, thank you for listening. Truly from
Always.
the bottom of our heart, thank you for listening.
Yes, we hope you've enjoyed the last 49 episodes and thank you for being with us all along. If you liked this podcast, you know where to go. I'm not going to get into it.
Yeah, and you know what? Stick around because we actually are just finding our speed.
Peace out.
See ya.
रिश्ते में तो हम तुम्हारे पॉडकास्ट लगते हैं. नाम है फुटबॉल शुटबॉल.
Presenting Football Should Ball, a show about three friends discussing our favorite game over a beer. Sometimes 3, maybe even 5. Hi, I'm Shiva, and with me are my two sidekicks, Gaurav Sapre and Karthik Iyer.
Sidekick? You mean like Batman's Robin or Van Persie Robin?
No, I mean like Alexis Sanchez, but with a little more skill than just playing the piano.
Ha, just shows how the best players at Arsenal are mere bench warmers at United.
Oh, thank you, Iyer. But you're a Fulham supporter, so whenever you say anything to support me, I question my beliefs.
Just like how Griezmann would say, एक बार मैंने जो decision ले लिया, तो मैं अपने आप की भी नहीं सुनता.
Banter aside, we will talk match reports, transfer rumors, top controversies, fantasy football picks, and so much more. So grab a beer and tune in to Football Should Ball every Wednesday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sachin Tendulkar, Virat Kohli, Don Bradman, and now Cyrus Brocha. Okay, probably not in the right company. I mean, Don Bradman is Australian. But it's called Cyrus Says, a wonderful show about everything. Find the show on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts.